Good morning. If we can get started, we did order coffee and water, and for some reason it's not here. They said that it'll be here, and I will allow you all to get up and go get it if it is. It's cold in here, and you need to have some warmth. So I hope don't feel bad about getting up. I might just do the same thing when it arrives here. I see you all got some of our packets are there. If we're out, also, we'll make more copies or we'll send it to you electronically. So don't worry about that. I'm Cindy Rivera. I'm the chair of the School Counseling Department, and welcome, everybody, for the fourth year that you're coming to our programs. I appreciate that. I'm going to introduce everyone first. I feel like our group gets larger every year, and the challenge is for me to remember everyone's name. So here we go. Right next to me is Sue Carroll, the coordinator of the College and Career Center. Molly Quinn, Kelly Clark, Lindsay Gottfried, Lori Keene, Julie Rossini, Lindsay McGarity now, was Ryle, she's not a new counselor, Erica Shadler, and Sarah Drexel. Everybody? Okay, good. Yay, did my job. Okay. So today we are here. You've gotten to senior year with your amazing, almost adults, no matter how. Oh, I also want to introduce the administration over here, Christy and Christy Carrero, grade level administrator, and Bill Egan, of course you know, our principal. Okay. Nice to see you all. Welcome. So you've got here, no matter how much you've planned, prepped for this year, how organized some of your kids have been, amazing, and how unorganized some of your kids have been, amazing. I'm guessing you feel like there's still a lot to do, and there is, I have to admit, for both you and your senior. So that's why we're here today. To lay out the next phase of the college admissions process.
If you weren't listening, I have no idea.
And what to expect in the next few months. We want to talk about how you can support your seniors without taking over for them, and how to maintain your own sanity through an admittedly anxious time. There have been a number of changes over the last few years, particularly since COVID. So it's a different process from certainly when you all went to school. So some of the changes have been pretty positive, like the de-emphasis on SATs and ACTs for most schools, and the improvement of the virtual events and virtual tours that colleges now offer when it's difficult to travel and visit. We've seen a rise in students attending large public universities, perhaps because of the costs, which are significant, or maybe just because of the opportunities in business, engineering, and some of those larger majors. Other things have remained the same. Applications are still the same. They need to be completed. The essays need to be written, and transcripts need to be sent. The hardest part is the waiting and the uncertainty of it all. Hopefully your kids have had the chance to research some schools, visit campuses, make some decisions about what kind of school they like and feel like they could be comfortable attending. They can continue to modify their search as the admission reps start to come, which you'll hear about, or they can continue to see schools via Zoom, or they can continue to visit schools. Counselors will also help with expanding lists if needed, if we see that there's not a well-balanced list there. The majority of schools are still score optional, and we'll talk about what to think about in making the decision to send or not send SATs or ACTs. Last year, 44% of the seniors did not submit scores, yet most achieved a place in one of their top schools, top choice schools. 84% said that in their final service. They were pretty happy, final survey, that they were pretty happy. If your child has an alternative plan besides going right off to college, perhaps they're considering the military, a gap year, post-grad year, or a technical school, the counselors still want to meet with you and talk to you about that process, because that starts this year as well. So that will be part of all the planning that goes on. We're targeting the college process today, but we want those who are thinking about other things to know that it's just as important to think about those other places. There's no one way to manage the next few months. Students may have only a partial list of schools. Most are still rewriting essays and discovering supplemental essays they hadn't thought about doing. They're just still deciding on whether to send testing or not send testing. They may be sending to some schools and not other schools, and getting through all the pieces of the applications. Many plan to apply early to schools. When I met with my group, it was 100% said they were applying early. So whatever that means, we're going to work with your children about that. We understand that these deadlines are coming up fast and furious, and we always meet our deadlines, so no worries about that. Some kids, know where they're applying early, but don't know what the rest of the list is going to look like. Some are not ready to start at all. I've had kids start the process in March of their senior year. It's just what happens. Wherever they are, it'll be okay. We'll help them move through the process, and I expect most students will be finished applying by the holidays. So then that's the only time they can breathe. They cannot breathe before then. Our plan is to meet with every one of our students in the next couple of months to make sure they're on track, whatever their plans. Last week, we met with all the kids during the building block, the seniors. Did they tell you all about it? Oh, I got a couple of nods. That's good. I usually don't. And you're going to hear the same information that we talked to them about. The idea is, by sharing the same information with you, we are inviting you to partner with us. We'll be working with your kids, you'll be working with your kids, and we'll get through all the steps necessary. As counselors, we work as a team. We're constantly discussing our students with each other, whether it's reading and consulting on college essays, reviewing our recommendations with each other, or expanding lists of schools. In the end, the plan is that your child will have a number of good options to consider. Last year, we processed well over 3,000 applications to colleges. 94% are attending four-year schools. 84, as I said before, got into one of their top three choices. 99% of the graduating class reported they were satisfied with the outcomes of the admissions process. So that's higher than it's ever been. So that's a good thing. That's what we want, is that in the end, they have found a place that they're happy with. So just try to remember what your child is looking to get out of college and where they may be happiest. It's not always about getting to the most competitive school they can get into. We really have to look at where they will thrive. And that's an important piece we talk to them often about, and we don't want to lose that in this race right now. So always consider that as you're finishing up this process. So today you'll first hear from Molly and Kelly, outlining what we went over last week with the students. Sue Carroll will talk about college rep visits, and Lindsay Gottfried will talk about what parents can do to help. We'll have plenty of time for questions at the end. If you have more personal questions, just reach out to your counselor, and they'll help you with this. Okay, so let's get started with this, and Molly and Kelly. Or Molly, yes.
We're going to split it up. Hi, good morning, everyone. I am going to go over this acronym that we use here to help keep your students organized. It's START, START, and I'm going to go over which cover each one. So I'm going to start with senior appointment first, and that is the one-on-one meeting, the initial one-on-one meeting with the student and the counselor. It's just the initial meeting. Like Cindy said, we'll be scheduling those over the course of the next couple of weeks. But of course, we can meet with students as many times as we need. A big part of this process is meeting students where they're at. But that first meeting should be scheduled through Mrs. Pocha, and students know Mrs. Pocha's email by now. So we encourage students to set that meeting up as soon as possible. through Mrs. Pocha during one of their free times, and we'll start the senior appointment. To make the senior appointment as productive as possible, we ask that all students submit the student questionnaire, which was sent to them over the summer, the senior profile. And so that can be found in their email. We'll also share that with where to find that on our website afterwards. But all students have that, and we want students to complete that in advance of our senior appointment, just to help us get to know the student a little bit more. Maybe things that they did over the summer, updates, important things like that are in the senior profile. That senior profile is also really important because we use that to write our letters of recommendation. So it's essential that students complete that. I've gotten a few of them so far. The deadline is coming up, I think, next week. So we ask that all students go home and do that. And it doesn't have to be this involved, perfect document. We just want it to be as detailed and as thorough as possible because, like we said, it's very helpful in our letters of recommendation. There's also an opportunity for parents to complete the parent questionnaire, and that was also sent to you and can also be found online as well if you've yet to do that. But that's your opportunity. You know your student the best, and we welcome that information through the parent questionnaire. Again, we use that, of course, to just get to know your students better, but also we use that information in the letters of recommendation. So please take the time to do that. It really helps bring our letters of recommendation to life. In that senior appointment, the main thing we'll be focused on is the college list, and we're going to be reviewing that with students, making sure that the list is balanced, and we like to use the terms likely, targets, and reaches, and so a combination there within those categories. I think the average student usually applies to around 10 schools, but it's definitely a student and family decision. And so we'll be checking to make sure that students' list is balanced. That's what we view as our most important task when looking over the college list. And then we also discuss deadlines. So if your students are planning on applying early decision or early action, we go over that. Like Mrs. Rivera said, a majority of students will be applying early action. If you're still confused about early decision and early action, we can clarify that later. But that's, we'll talk about those strategies or application deadlines in that meeting to make sure everyone knows their deadlines. And yeah, so just make sure that your student takes care of that senior appointment. And I'm going to move on to transcripts. So transcript, did you want to say something?
Move the slides across.
Okay. Oh, yeah, sorry. Okay. And we'll have questions at the end, so if I missed anything. All right, so transcripts. Transcript requests are handled through Mrs. Granite in our office. She's the registrar. Her email's right here. And we ask that students request transcripts 3 to 4 weeks prior to the earliest deadline that they have. So that process can be happening now. There's a transcript request form that's found on our website, and students need to fill that out. It asks for the school name, the state of the college, the location, and the deadline. So that form needs to be filled out in entirety and sent electronically to Mrs. Granite. And we make sure from there that transcripts arrive to the colleges. The transcripts are sent as part of a package, so along with the transcript, we also send the school profile, which has information about our curriculum and our test scores and provide some context to your student's transcript. And then we also send the letters of recommendation and the counselor letter of recommendation as well. So it's a package, but the most important thing is to request those transcripts, and that initiates us sending the documents to the colleges. And all of that is done electronically through Mrs. Granite. And there's no order to this either, so if you're worried that your son or daughter is not ready to submit their application, but you aren't sure if you should request the transcripts, there's no order. So they can request the transcripts as soon as possible, and then they can submit, as long as they submit their application by the deadline, everything arrives to the college and is matched matched up in their application. So you don't have to wait for them to finalize their application pieces. And then application, that is, the bulk of this process at this point. Most students will be using the Common Application, and that's the one application that can be sent to multiple colleges. All students by now, should have a Common App account with a username and password. And in there, that's where they indicate their deadlines, early action, early decision. Typically, November 1st is the most common deadline here. And the application takes time. I think we all know that. The bulk of the application is the writing, is the personal essay, and many students have already started that. A lot of them started it last year in their junior English class, but there are a lot of resources here to help them with the college essay, including the Writing Center, and then another event that we're going to share a flyer with you for supplemental essays. But the application also asks for, there's an activity section that also does take some time too, and that asks for students to put in 10 activities that they've participated in throughout high school in order of importance to them. And sometimes students think that that's not going to take a lot of time either, but that should be a thoughtful process, making sure that they take the time to describe the activities and make sure that they include everything that they've done, whether it's community service, summer jobs, extracurriculars, and sports can all be included in that section. And then we talked about the personal essay. And so, yeah, most students will just use the Common App. There are a few exceptions to that. The UC schools, some of the European schools use their own application where you apply directly to the college. But for the most part, students will just be using the Common Application. And I did mention the supplemental essays too. Not every school requires a supplemental essay, but a lot of them do, and they're shorter, typically like somewhere between 100 words, 250 words. So it's important that students know how many supplemental essays they have to be writing. I recommend going through the application, and some colleges kind of hide them or embed them. Like if you say that you're applying to a certain major, then all of a sudden a text box pops up and you have a supplemental essay. So it's good to get organized, and I recommend copying and pasting the prompts into a document and figuring out how many supplemental essays that your son or daughter will need to write. And those should be thoughtful as well, not something that is done the night before, because if a college has taken the time to add a supplemental essay to their application, it means that they care deeply about what you're including there. Oftentimes it's the why us essay. Sometimes colleges even read the supplemental essay before they read the personal essay. So don't think of those as just little extra add-ons. They're just as important. And if you see the word optional, a lot of colleges have added optional supplemental essays. We're telling students that those are not optional. They should, if they should be writing those essays too. So, and deadlines. So I know I talked a lot about deadlines, but keep in mind that even though the application is due November 1st, we don't recommend that a student is submitting the Common App on October 31st. I'll remind you that Hurricane Sandy was October 28th, and so, things can happen. So it's best, sometimes the Common App crashes. I don't anticipate that this year, but, things don't wait until the last minute to be clicking submit when the rest of the country is. So try and set your own internal household deadlines. Okay. All right, and now we're going to talk about recommendations.
All right, good morning. I'm Kelly Clark. So I'm looking forward to meeting the families who I'll be working with this year. I'm very excited to be here. I'd like to thank Mr. Egan for stopping the squeaking noise because I was worried about having to compete and present, so I appreciate you taking care of that. So recommendations. In general, most colleges allow for 2 teacher recommendations. Some only request 1, and we'll go through that with all of your seniors during their appointments because it's in Naviance once they click over from their schools they're thinking about to schools they're applying to. And so we'll make sure they have the exact number of recommendations there. We've encouraged all students when we met with them in the building block to make sure to connect with teachers, probably from 11th grade, who might know them a little bit better and can speak to them in their college recommendation letter. What the colleges want to know is, what kind of student they are in the classroom, their ability to do college level work or be a leader in the classroom, motivation, if they're, submitting work on time. So any teacher that can speak to those things would be a good choice for your students to speak with. In addition, if they are very passionate about a certain subject area or know what major they're going to be going into, to have a letter from that subject area would be very helpful if they have that connection with that teacher. If they're not really sure who to ask, we can also do that during the senior appointment, and so we can guide them through that process as well. We've shown the students how to enter the request in Naviance, and if they have a question, that's okay. We do encourage all students to write a handwritten note after the recommendation request, because the teachers take a lot of time to make sure they're supporting their students. The teachers have put in a lot of work, your kids have put in a lot of work, and we really want to see that kind of come together for their future planning. So a written thank you note goes a long way to acknowledge that. Each student will also receive a counselor recommendation. So speaking to what Molly was saying about the senior profile, especially for the counselors who are new to you guys, we're going to get to know your students as best we can, and then that is really helpful to fill in the blanks. Specifically, the counselor recommendation letter is really about beyond school and kind of like how your child is a part of the community, or it talks about their character, maybe fills in some of the blanks that aren't as specific as test scores, grades, things like that. So that's what we're trying to get to know from the students, maybe any adjunct activities over the summer, things they've done, so that we can make sure to share that. Am I talking too fast? Okay. All right. Okay. The second part of the letter is that it really is anecdotal, extracurricular, volunteer, and we really want to give a voice to the student, not necessarily with their academics. So hopefully it will be like a holistic, approach and make sure that we include everything that we need to. The letters are written after the senior appointment. So the senior profile, again, is really important, and we will request that before we have the actual appointment. Outside recommenders. If you have a student who has a letter that is coming from outside of our district, everything we do will be through Naviance. But if they do have an outside letter, that would be going through the Common App. So that is something that we can address if that is something that they have during our senior appointment. But in general, most of the letters are going to come from New Canaan and recommendations from teachers. And then if there's an outside one, we can address that as needed. Okay, and then we're going to go over test scores. So this is another piece of the package, and like Ms. Rivera addressed at the beginning, there's been some changes as far as where the, which schools are taking them, which schools are not, test optional, how they weight on their admissions. A lot of colleges are still waiving score requirements and going test optional. That being said, it is a personal decision. You guys can decide as a family. When we meet with your seniors, we can actually look at the schools they're looking at and kind of see the profile of a student and what scores students have submitted in the past, and if they have been successful with admissions or not. So that can help us to make that decision. But essentially, you guys can decide your comfort level on that, and we can give you guys as much information as you need to make that decision. Generally, if the ACT or SAT scores are at or above average from what we're looking at from past applicants, we encourage them to send. But again, we can decide that. If sending, they actually go through the College Board and ACT websites, so that's something that is in a little additional step to be sure when you finish your application process. You definitely need time, so just like we need time to do the transcripts, it does take time. They send them out in batches, so if you put the request in and you don't see that it's been submitted, don't worry, it will go, but because they do it in that way, it's important to give them some lead time for that. 3 weeks out is advisable, but, depending on the situation. Did I miss anything? No? Okay. All right, thank you guys so much for your attention. Sue Carroll is here, and she's going to be sharing information next about colleges and careers.
And is there a slide for that?
Yep. There you go.
Because I don't know how to push it.
Oh, we're all good.
Good morning. How many of you, is this your first child going through this process?
Oh, boy.
All right, good to know. Good to know. That's why the faces are looking kind of shocked. I have a 7-year-old granddaughter who knows that we both go to school each day. When I spoke to her this past weekend, she asked me how school was going after I asked her how school was going. I told her that I was going to chat with some parents soon about college, and she giggled and she said, "Ask them this. What did the Bison dad say when he dropped his son off at college? Bye, son." So any chat, yeah, any chat that begins with a dad joke from a 7-year-old, I think has got to be pretty good. And perhaps you can remember your own kids at 7 and where they are now. Pretty good. Visits begin today with Clemson and Penn State. We have an impressive and long list of colleges visiting this year. There is some college for everybody. Many are NCHS perennial favorites such as Bucknell and Indiana and Boston College. But we are trying to broaden our collegiate horizons and happy to welcome wonderful colleges such as Rice, Grinnell, Temple, University of Minnesota, which are great overlaps for Carnegie Mellon, Amherst, Syracuse, and University of Michigan. But where being from Connecticut might add a little boost to your application. So we're hoping that students will start branching out to explore other excellent options. I just added Emory-Riddle, for example, to the visit list. So if your child is interested in aeronautical engineering, maybe has University of Colorado on their list or MIT, this is an amazing school and maybe they want to do a little more research and come to the visit. We hope that you will take a look at the list and encourage this. And if you need any help figuring out overlaps, Naviance helps with this, but I've got 23 years of experience, so I'm happy to help also. It's not too late after all. That's the point of the visits, to learn more about what a particular school has to offer. The visits are a great opportunity to ask specific questions of the rep, regards to majors, internships, housing, and the application, beyond what general information is provided in regular campus info sessions. I'm hoping that students catch on to this because the visits are often quiet initially until the seniors get comfortable with the format. I will keep encouraging the interaction, and maybe that's something you can encourage also. This is the time for your students to kick the tires, test drive the college before you pay $92,000 a year to drive away with it. For the most part, visits happen in the College and Career Center or a nearby conference room and are 40 minutes in length. They're for seniors only. Attendance is taken at all visits and sent to the attendance office. The seniors are lucky to the fact that the most of our reps happen to be the first readers of their applications. The visit schedule is on the school counseling page, as well as Naviance, and on a good old bulletin board outside my office. Seniors have been receiving emails about these visits if the school is on their Naviance list and they need to register for the visit through Naviance. If the student is unable to make the visit, there is a regret form that students can complete and return to me before the visit, and I will make sure the rep gets it. This is important if the school tracks demonstrated interest. I'm happy to conduct mock interviews also with seniors. And all they have to do is swing by my office that they walk by 50 times a day, or email me, and we'll set up a mutually convenient time. But if there's anything else that I can do for any of you, don't hesitate to ask. And I think Lindsay is going to wrap us up.
Cindy did ask if I needed a platform to stand on, and perhaps that would have been useful, actually. But doing my best here. So welcome, everybody. Lindsay Gottfried. I know I've met a lot of you already. So your role in the process, just to give you a little bit of background, I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, so we're not quite here yet. But my 2-year-old, I think, says it best when she says self, about doing everything. So I'm there to support her, but self. She wants to do things for herself. She wants to do the exploring. She wants to try things out. I think it's really important to keep that in mind as we go through the role of the parent. So the college application process can feel overwhelming, not just for students, but for families too. It's a time filled with excitement, questions, deadlines, and decisions. As a parent, your support plays a vital role, but knowing how to be involved in a helpful and empowering way can make all the difference. One of the best ways to support your child is by embracing the full range of colleges they choose to explore and apply to, even if you've never heard of some of them. Maybe like some of the colleges that Mrs. Carroll was just mentioning. There are so many amazing colleges out there, and it's really worth keeping an open mind. Keeping the focus on finding a school that fits your child's goals, interests, and needs, rather than just chasing name recognition or prestige, is really important. Every school on their list should be seen as a valid and valuable option. Keep the number of schools reasonable and keep the list balanced, as Molly had mentioned earlier. Around 10 schools is a good solid number, 2 to 3 reaches, 4 to 5 targets, 2 to 3 likelies. Again, this will vary by student and something that they can talk to their counselor about, but that's kind of a good basic outline. Using Naviance's scattergrams are a great way to visualize where each school belongs on the list. I know they had disappeared last year. I believe they are now fully back and functional, which is very exciting, but if you have trouble finding those, certainly let us know. As the process unfolds, work with your child to find an organizational system that actually works for them. Whether it's a digital calendar, spreadsheet, checklist, or a binder even, helping your child track application deadlines, supplemental requirements, test score submissions, transcript requests, and campus visits will reduce stress and promote accountability. Offer your support with logistical tasks like sending test scores, requesting documents, or planning visits, but let them take the lead where they can. Self, it's important. Establishing a regular weekly check-in for college conversations can go a long way. Keep in mind, in addition to you guys talking to your kids about college, they're gonna have relatives and friends and general people on the street they run into when they find out they're a senior asking about their college process. It can be really overwhelming. So if you can establish a regular weekly check-in, it can go a long way to having open communication without hovering or creating tension. These check-ins provide a space to celebrate progress, ask questions, and address challenges, and they help the process feel more manageable. It's important to remember that while your support is essential, this is your child's journey. Let me say that one more time. This is your child's journey. Encourage them to take full ownership, to schedule their own meetings, follow through on tasks, and meet deadlines independently. You're there to guide and support, not to complete the process for them. Throughout the journey, try to maintain an open, honest, and realistic dialogue. Talk openly about finances. There'll be a financial aid night on October 9th here. There's also recordings from last year and other years in case you want to get a head start on that, but that should be really helpful for anybody who still has questions. Talk about distance from home, academic fit, and any non-negotiables for you and your family. Listen carefully to your child's hopes and goals and look for alignment between your vision and theirs. You may find that your expectations evolve as you learn more together. Stay engaged by attending information sessions and college events whenever possible. These often provide essential updates, timelines, and resources that can help your family navigate the process with greater confidence. And you're all here today, so check, doing really good. If your child needs support preparing for standardized tests, explore available resources and help them build a study plan that fits their learning style and schedule. Many of your students may be done testing by now, but we realize that some students are still, taking tests again, so that's a really great way that you can help. Most importantly, don't hesitate to ask for help and encourage your child to do the same. There are many people who can offer valuable guidance and support, including school counselors, teachers, admission representatives, and either other parents who may have gone before you. You don't need to have all the answers, you just need to know where to go when questions come up. We work as a team to support your child. Alongside Sue Carroll in the College and Career Center, Lisa Granite, our registrar, and Maria Pocha, our administrative assistant, we're here to help with everything from interview preparation to sending transcripts and scheduling appointments. Our shared goal is to help your child achieve the best possible outcome. Finally, try to enjoy this time with your child. Amidst all the deadlines, decisions, and stress, this is a special chapter in your family's life. The college process can bring you closer through shared visits, essay brainstorms, late-night conversations, and new discoveries. Be present, be supportive, and remember, it's not just about getting into college. It's about helping your child grow into the next stage of their life with confidence, purpose, and support. Now, I'm going to turn it back to Cindy.
Sorry, I'm a little slow here. So just finally, I want to talk about some of those resources we talked about. October 9th, we've already heard about for Financial Aid Night. Our school counseling website really has a tremendous amount of information. Under, is that the link here? This will have all the links that we have been talking about. The senior year forms are right here. And these are all the places that we talked about, some of the things. You are holding the college application process. If you didn't get a packet, it's right there. The different forms the kids need to fill out, the questionnaire, if you have lost it, it's right there for you to fill it out again. Post-grad, other things here too. Sending first quarter grades, that is also a different process and decision. We don't automatically send them. We want kids to look at them. Some colleges want them. A lot of colleges won't look at them. So that is something that we will talk about in November and send those. That's after the deadlines. It's fine to send those again. The seniors profile, if they've lost that, we've sent all this to the kids, so they have that. So that's a really important piece, is that website. The supplemental essay workshop, you have a flyer for that. That's on September 18th, and that's here in the Wagner Room. Whoops. Stop it. It's here in the Wagner Room, and we've run it through the College Essay Guide a few times, and maybe your kids did that last year, but this is on the supplements. And our own teachers, Ms. Brown and Mr. Darkin, run it because they've been trained in the same processes. They do a really good job and thought they could do a better job than what was online. So that will be recorded, but it'll be really helpful for the kids to be here for that. And then in December, we have Jeff Salingo, the author and journalist that seems to be on every college panel that you'll see. He'll be here. Brian Lutzy will moderate that. He's just written a new book called Dream School, and really talking about some of the messages we've talked about today in terms of broadening your idea of what is a dream school for your child. He knows everything about college admissions, and he's been doing it for 25 years and has done the deep data dive into all of this stuff. So he'll be really fascinating to listen to. And then we really want you to, if you haven't already, follow us on our Instagram accounts. There's 2 of them that we both submit to, our Twitter account and our Facebook account. So social media is everywhere, and we've jumped on that. So if you want to take that on too, that's a great idea. Finally, questions. So, fast. I'm going to let my colleagues who haven't spoken yet take on a lot of these, because I'm going to sit back down pretty soon, but go ahead.
So my question is, Andy Vernon was our counselor. Hi, Kelly. She indicated that she was writing the recommendation letters last year. I'm just wondering how that's going to, are they going to be signed by Anne, signed by both of you? Is there going to be an introduction that, Anne knew them well and you're how is that handled?
Yeah, so my plan is to take whatever Anne left. My plan is to take whatever Anne left, and when I meet the student and go over their profile, write a letter including some information from her and some information from me. They will be coming from me, and I will make sure that they're comprehensive, supportive, and, really paint a good picture of your senior in their high school career. Okay, yeah.
Anne did a really good job of making sure, and I think Rose too, of making sure that they left outlines, notes, of what they know about a student in terms of their personality, the stories so far. And then really in senior year, we wrap it up together, all those things that kids, because we only know like this much about them. And then that senior profile tells us about so much more. And your information in the parent questionnaire gives us so much information that we only may have known this much about them. So it's really helpful.
Just to follow up on that, the senior profile, I know both my kids filled it out last year for Anne. Do you want them to fill it out again?
I probably have it,
Okay.
but if I need to, before I meet with everybody in their senior appointments, I check to see if I have it. If not, I ping them and get it, so don't
Okay.
worry about that,
Okay.
yeah.
Or if you feel like you need to update it, because now in senior year, they've picked up some leadership positions or done something over the summer that is different than where they are now, where they were then. As you notice, your kids kind of change a lot, very quickly.
I have a question. I'm just curious. I overheard there is a SAT report, super score. Is there any disadvantage if you use the super score instead of, how college can look at the super score if you use that?
Want to repeat the question for everybody that can't hear over here?
Oh, the question was about super scoring, and should you use it, and do you use it, and do colleges use it? I would say at this point, 95 to 100% of colleges super score. They may super score within the SAT, or they may super score within the ACT. So that means they take some of your scores from the March submission, or some of your scores from the June submission. So they'll take the highest scores and record them. A lot of times it's a computer taking the highest scores, or a student who's working in their office putting in the highest scores. So it's not,
Oh, so it's not volunteer. The system can report the highest score for
yeah. Yes, most colleges use the highest score they can get. That's all they want to know the best about you. They're not trying to ding you, they're trying to accept you. So they're going to try to do that.
And just to add to that, so if your child has, let's say, a higher, reading score from one sitting and then a higher math score from another sitting, it'll be important that you all, when you submit the score reports, are submitting both separate score reports. So then the college, through whatever system they have, can offer that super score, right? So your child can self-report their super score through the Common App or through whatever application they're using. And then in addition to that, again, if you're super scoring, you just need to be sure that you're sending both official score reports so that that super score, composite ends up in the right space.
Right here.
Just a comment, and my first question is a comment about what you just said. We did a couple of college visits where the colleges will require you to submit every score for every city. There weren't too many of them. I think Georgetown was one of them.
Yeah, there's under 10, there's under 10 colleges that
Yeah,
require.
very rare. So I think in our colleges, it's only one that it requires every one of them. I have quite a few questions, but I'm just gonna ask one for now. Carol, this question is for you. You mentioned, like go to some other colleges and things like that. And I know Nadia gave you like comparable colleges, but you said that there is a list. Is that a list that you have, but it's not on the website? Some of the colleges, or were you talking about the colleges that are coming to campus?
Yeah,
Repeat the question first.
there's a question about, I'm assuming, overlap colleges that have great similarities. Any of the counselors can share with you their thoughts on the list that you currently have and what would be overlaps. I'm happy to do that also. I think that just judging by how kids sign up for visits, we already have 35 kids signed up for Boston College. Why aren't you looking at Marquette if you love Boston College? I just think we go about this all wrong. There's nothing wrong with Boston College. My husband was a proud BC grad, But there's other colleges very, very similar. If you love Michigan and Wisconsin, which are going to be two of the most applied to colleges this year, look at Ohio State, you look at University of Oregon, look at University of Minnesota. I just think we could do a better job. It's hard to get a 17-year-old brain to wrap around that concept. Jeff Salingo will help with that with Dream Schools because his whole thing is return on investment. And I think that there's 3,000 colleges in the United States. Broaden your horizons. But there is not a list. I mean, the Princeton Review does, like, if you like this, you'll like this, this, and this. Naviance does it. But any of us could provide that also.
And are parents allowed to attend these college visits, or is it only?
What do you think? No, because you take over. You do. I've been doing it for 23 years. The first 2 years I did it, parents were invited. The kids never spoke. When you go to an information session on a college campus, do you see kids putting their hands up? You do not. They just sit there passively. So no. But if I can be helpful with anything else, I'm happy to do it, and I'm happy to chat with you, as are all the counselors.
And me, as an experienced counselor, knowing this, where was I in those lines? Right up front asking questions. It's terrible. Other questions? I'll go in the back for just a minute, and then I'll go to you.
I have 2 kids that are going through this process right now. We've had all of our family conversations with each of them about how, what we're bringing to the table. They listen to you guys like 90% and us like 10%. So, like, every time we have a family conversation about a meeting that they're going to have with their counselor, they go in and they come back and they're like, they've completely ditched anything that we've kind of agreed to as a family. And in a lot of cases, it's actually making their lives a lot more difficult. And I feel, I don't know, I guess I'm just trying to navigate, like, how much do we step in and say, like, and how do we give ourselves a little bit more of a voice when they go in and they're like, oh my God, the counselors have told me, the school has told me that I have to do this, or I'm not going into college, basically. I mean, that's how they interpret it. That's what they hear when they hear, like, that they have to do that, like, they have to give something up or do something else. Or anyway, it's kind of an interesting. We all have a lot of overachievers, I guess, and for me, I'd like to get them to kind of be a little bit more balanced, I guess. And I don't know how to do that.
I will. Go ahead.
So I think first off, those conversations are perfect opportunities for you all as parents to kind of let us know and loop us in to what's going on at home. And that, I always like to say we can address things together but separately, because to your point, sometimes students are maybe a little more likely or kind about listening to our advice, than they are to mom or dad, which, they're just used to kind of tuning you out. So I know for my families, right, I always say if there's something that you're working on at home or something that you're concerned about, let me know. And even if we're maybe not sitting down together as a family, or as a group, because that can sometimes be overwhelming for a student, we always want to make sure that we're both supporting them in similar ways and working towards common goals, right? So I would say loop in that child's counselor and make sure that you and the counselor are on the same page in terms of, what you're recommending and how you're supporting your child, so that we're, again, all working towards the same common goal. And I think I speak for all of us in agreeing that we have some overachievers here, and we love our students because they want to do so much, and sometimes from our perspective, we are kind of counseling them to scale back in ways that make sense, or, perhaps they've shared specific goals with us that we can then say, okay, well, if your goal is to major in engineering, but you've never taken an engineering, physics, or calculus class, like, we might need to add something to the schedule, or, just kind of anecdotal advice and information like that. And if you're feeling like you're sort of missing that piece, reach out to the counselor and we can fill you in, on the discussions that we're having with your child.
Yes, again, the partnership. Go ahead.
So my question is about scholarships. Are you all going to have your students with applications and deadlines, or we as a parent have to follow that? So what resources do we have?
So, Nobody? Go ahead.
I'll chime in.
I'll jump in.
The first step is have your son and daughters complete their college applications. After that point, because you can't be juggling too many balls all at the same time. After that, then students would then dive in to see what scholarships are available. At our financial aid night on October 9th, our presenter Bill Smith will be giving some great resources. One of them is fastweb.org, excuse me. You fill out a form and never pay for any scholarship search. If there's a fee, that means it's not free. You put in my uncle was a firefighter, it'll spit out scholarships that are available to you. On our website, we have really helpful information about scholarships. Fastweb.org is one of them. There's a whole bunch of others. We also have the New Canaan Scholarship Foundation, Sapienza Scholarship. There's a lot of helpful information on our website. In our in-house application scholarships that we have, we're emailing the students, reminding them about deadlines, making sure that they're meeting them.
Most of those deadlines will be in the second semester. This New Canaan scholarships are generally a May 1st deadline. Also on Common App,
Yeah, on the
Common App, there's a great financial aid tab
scholarship.
that has a lot of scholarship information as well. So every scholarship is different. The national scholarships are more competitive. A lot of them are for $2,000 here and $2,000 there. So most of your scholarship information will come from the college itself, where it'll offer merit aid, or if you have checked that you need financial aid, they will provide a package with the admissions letter that your child gets. It will say, this is what the financial package will look like. And most of your money will come from the college itself after you've filled out. There's 2 forms to fill out: the federal form, FAFSA, and the private school form, which is CSS profile. So those 2 will be the driver of most of your aid, the larger portion, including loans and things like that.
And then also, just as Cindy mentioned, the merit aid is real, but you have to kind of shoot down a little bit maybe. So maybe your student could get into Yale, but Gettysburg offers them a presidential scholarship. You're saving $92,000 a year by going to Gettysburg.
Especially if you want to be a lawyer or a doctor and going on for grad
Correct.
school
So
anyway.
this should be a dining room table conversation with your children. If your children don't know how you're going to pay for college yet, you are doing them a grave disservice. Mrs. Godfrey mentioned about the going into adulthood. This is one of those ways. How are you going to pay? Well, we've been saving. We have a 520. You should be explaining this to your kids. It should not be a hidden conversation waiting for the last minute. Elon University is one of Jeff Salingo's dream schools because they give 1/3 of all applicants, regardless of financial aid, money. So there's a lot of ways. You just have to think about it and do a little bit of research, okay?
Yep, right there.
Now that we're coming towards the finish line of all of this.
Woo!
Early action, I guess, so to speak. I know the kids are having a senior appointment. Is there a last hurrah for the parents to kind of bless all of this and kind of have full transparency on everything?
So glad
Like, so is it up to us to take a proactive, like, schedule an appointment versus?
So the senior appointment is an opportunity for the counselor to meet one-on-one with their senior. I think that you could reach out, and anybody could reach out to their child's school counselor to have a phone conversation or to set up another opportunity. This is sort of like the kickoff, and then there's upcoming, we have additional senior programming, I think later this month, October as well.
You would have to request it.
And just so you know, if your child does want to apply early decision, parents have to sign off on that early decision agreement. It's not just counselors and students, so that will be something that you would automatically get a notification about through your student, and that's something that you would sign off on. But yeah, anything else, I agree, is appointment.
Do universities know how many colleges a student applies to? Do they have access to that?
The question was, do universities know what other schools your students are applying to? No.
They do not. They do not. And for example, when they're sitting around the table in my office, a rep will often say, oh, looking at the group of kids, where else are you applying? And I kibosh that right away. That is nobody's business. I don't even like it that the kids talk about it among themselves. And I hope you will not ever ask another kid where they're applying, because it's not your business either. So very protective of that information. They have no access to seeing Navient. They don't know who comes to visits.
In the back standing?
Do you have any dress code recommendations, or is just, regular high school attire?
We mostly tell them not to wear a college shirt from another college.
We all
Mostly.
laugh, but that is like.
It happens a lot.
Just the most.
And during
most compliments.
homecoming week, it's actually hysterical. The college reps love it to see whatever they're wearing. So as long as it's not inappropriate, it's okay.
As a bit of a fashion-obsessed person, though, I would really encourage you all to be like having these conversations with your students. The college visit calendar is available, and all of the visits are listed, so you can really help them be planning, right? Like if we're going to the college visit for UConn, we're not wearing our Penn State sweatshirt, but we're also not showing up like in our pajamas, right? Like these are conversations that you can help them with. I feel like kids don't always think forward. They start today. Yep.
The question is some of the visits
I
on
think,
Zoom. Yes.
for example, Clemson is on Zoom, just 2 so far. But we have that option. Clemson, trying to get Clemson to leave their home state is impossible. So when he said, I'll do a Zoom, I said, I'll take it. Clemson does not track demonstrated interest. They could care less about who's in the room. But if you still have questions about going to a large state university and Clemson's on your list, come and ask the rep.
New Canaan, monster sports school, yet it feels like most of the research you see, they say avoid sports supplemental essays. What's your opinion, or do any of you have a strong opinion, supplemental essay still avoiding sports, or do you think it's okay if it's okay?
What do y'all think about that one? Go ahead, Laura.
I think so often when teens write about sports, the usual theme says, here we were at the 50-yard line. There were 2 minutes left, and the score was tie. My grandma came home from Arizona to see the state game, and we did it, and we were so excited. That's not unique. They're bored. They get that a lot. If there's a sports story that is so unique to your son and daughter that it's going to shed something new and unique to their application, then it's okay. Did they have grit? Were they a senior stuck on JV and they stayed and they never played, but they persevered, and it has to be not, oh, here we go. If that essay drops on the floor and your neighbor picks it up and says, oh, this sounds like Sunny, that's a good sign. If that essay sounds like any other student athlete at New Canaan High School, please don't send it. I hope that kind of helps. And when in doubt, have your son and daughter show us the essays. I love reading our kids' essays. I pretend I don't know them. I pretend it's the end of the day. I've read 800 essays already. Does this bring some type of emotion? Is this child that I know? And so forth. And we give really blunt, open feedback. And if we're questioning, then I may go to my neighbor, say, what do you think about this? We really work collaboratively to make sure that your son and daughters have the best applications and essays. And the Writing Center is awesome, too.
Yes, in the back?
So how does a student know, based on their college list, if that college does care about demonstrated interest or not? Does it say, like, we'd like to see your interest, or do they have to just kind of bounce around the website to figure it out?
Well, I kind of know.
It's about showing demonstrated
So
interest.
you can ask. You can Google. It's pretty much on every admissions website, whether they track. But a good rule of thumb is the smaller the college, the more they care about how many times you touch them. Large colleges really don't care. University of Wisconsin could care less. In an ideal world, they won all of it, but yes.
And just really quickly on demonstrated interest, I like to remind all of my students, whether or not that school is tracking demonstrated interest, your child should be doing a significant amount of research into any school that they're applying to. If they're doing that, right, to determine, is this school a good fit for me? Do they have the programs that I'm interested in? Have I visited so I can tell if I actually like the campus? If they're doing all of that and the school is tracking demonstrated interest, great, they're checking that box. But if they're not tracking demonstrated interest, your student is still in a better position to put forth a strong application demonstrating that fit because they've done valuable research. So try to take, whether they're tracking or not, kind of put that on the back burner and know that going through that process is really what's helping them submit a quality application.
This is why you don't apply to more than 10 schools. It is so complicated and difficult for our seniors while they're doing their coursework at school to be writing all the essays and considering all the deadlines of more than 10 schools. It's just, I've never seen so many kids unravel fast with that kind of a list. So be really careful about that. In the back.
The visits are 40 minutes long, and yes, I encourage interaction. Sometimes I have to, don't tell the fire marshal, but I did have 48 kids in the room last year for Michigan. There was very little interaction. It was much more of a, but it was, you can still get a lot from the rep. And the kids do ask good questions. Hopefully you'll encourage them at home to ask questions. But because I think sometimes they think, oh, if I just sit there and sign in and bring my phone, because there's always a QR code that the school provides, the college provides to scan, which takes their information, that's enough. They're not engaged. And this is a time to be engaged in this. This is, this time next year, they will be on a college campus for 3 weeks. So wrap your head around that, So yes, they should engage with the rep. And again, usually it's the first reader of our applications.
And it's not unusual for those reps later to ask us, who is that kid over there who asked the really great question? Because they're going to take note. In the same way, they'll ask, who's that kid who had his hat down and was looking down and didn't just seem to be appearing. So they're taking note. So you just want the kids to know that, be serious about this. Don't just try to go to everyone you can go to get out of class. So.
I just want to add a note, too, about the visits. Some of them, yes, there's 30 kids packed around a table, shoulder to shoulder. Other visits, if it's a smaller school, a less popular school, it could be that rep with 2 or 3 students. So it could be a really intimate conversation. It could be an opportunity for that rep to really get to know your child more closely. So.
Yeah, I remember last year the Bowdoin rep came. She's been our rep for a long time. We're lucky enough also to have some really long-lived reps who know our school really well. And I sat around, I had the gift of sitting around with 8 students and the Bowdoin rep, and we just talked about all of their interests, where they saw themselves, how Bowdoin could help them get there. And I thought, gosh, I've got the best job in the entire universe, because it was just a little bit of a gift. Your kids are smart, and they're articulate. They might grunt a lot around the dinner table, but they're really awesome. You guys have done a great job, and you should be very proud of yourselves because they're terrific. They really are.
They are. Okay.
You said 94% of the kids got into their top 3, one of the top 3 schools. Do you feel that if you're going to ED and EA, are the numbers okay that you can apply to 10, you could do 5 ED, EA, and then wait, and then do the last 5 before January 1st, or do you think you should do them all before November 1st, ED, EA?
Well, I think we all have some opinions about that. So go ahead, Julie.
So what I always tell the students is to really prioritize those supplemental essays. So what you're going to want to do is just make sure that you have time to really proofread everything you're putting out to that college. Those supplemental essays are polished. We've looked at them. You've looked at them. So it depends on how much that's their stress level and how much they can handle. Sometimes waiting can be strategic so that they have more time to really prepare those mid-year ones. But have them talk to us in the senior appointment, and we can come up with a good plan with them about when to apply to each one.
You can only apply one ED. I thought you said EDEA, but only one can be ED, so.
But it seems like your percentages goes up a lot more EA, so, you know, my wife and I were doing all 10 by November 1st.
You are, or?
You mean your child is doing all of that?
But it would seem like the numbers would support, look, if you do 5, you're probably going to be okay. Then you don't have to do the other 5. It's kind of how I'm looking.
Yeah, I often, depending on what that early 5 is, I often say, throw in that backup school right early on so you feel comfortable you're in somewhere, and we feel pretty comfortable. And if you didn't get in, we have to relook at the whole list, you know, so I'm always thinking about that as well. So it's a good conversation to have with the counselor. I often have kids do their top 5, get in some places, and then reorder the rest that they may apply to. Because if you got into your number 4 school, why are you applying to 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th school? So.
But you also want to be a little bit strategic in terms of schools that have early decision 1 versus schools that have early decision 1 and early decision 2. So if they have both of those things, that's a good conversation to have with your counselor about which schools it might make sense to hold off on to be your ED2 school versus your ED1. You want to prioritize getting all of your early school stuff done first, and then you can move on to the rest of it. But sometimes even a top choice school might come later in the process, depending on the strategy. So it's a really personal per student conversation.
I want to also emphasize what Cindy said about having a likely school in that first round. The stress level and the temperature comes down significantly for those students that know everything was successful, everything got there, I'm going somewhere. It can help a lot.
Oh, sorry, go back here.
I have two technical questions. One, you had mentioned that you don't need to have an order for some of the forms to go in, that they all eventually get it. So for outside transcripts, is that something that we should be doing like soon in order to get
Transcripts? You mean
from like a college, like pre-college program?
Oh.
Is that something we should do sooner rather than later, or is that just like an October 1st thing?
That would all go October 1st or November 1st, same time. So it depends on what you're talking about into a pre-college. Yeah. It has to be by November 1st, yes.
So, just to add, colleges will start like an electronic file for a student. So if they were to receive information sooner, they basically put it into an electronic file where they'll start to just compile information until the file is complete, and then they'll read after the deadline. They won't necessarily look at the transcript yet, but they'll file it. They'll often respond that they received it.
And we did tell all seniors last week in Building Block the importance of monitoring your emails and checking those portals, making sure there's no like hidden supplementals. There are some colleges that will send out the thank you for submitting your application. Now here's 3 more essays we want you to submit in the next 2 weeks. So just reminding your kids to keep an eye on their emails, their portals, and be checking everything. But to go back to the no specific order, I get emails from students every year saying, I'm ready to submit my application, but my transcript hasn't gone yet, or my recommendation letter isn't in yet. That's okay. Trust that all of us are monitoring every document and every deadline, and they will be in on time. So your child hitting submit on that button, they own that process, and that's for them to do whenever they feel ready.
It's all fine. It all goes into that basket that Sarah was talking about, and they don't start to look at it till an application is in. Yeah, yes, we can send everything, yes. Okay.
Comment was made earlier that the EA acceptance rates might be higher than regular, but you shake your head. My research says no, it's not, and in fact, some schools seem to try and make it the same. So why
comfort.
lower the stress level, but I would argue that it's the same, the opposite, or you're applying EA to somebody more selective schools, and it's down.
Yeah, I think I should have mentioned this when I discussed the transcripts, but typically there is no statistical advantage to applying early action versus regular decision. Colleges do try and keep it pretty 50-50. Where the advantage, I suppose, comes in is if you do apply to a school early action and you're deferred, that's when the colleges will then ask for those first semester or first quarter grades. So it just goes back to the importance of reminding your seniors to that first quarter, first semester grades do really matter, because I think sometimes students think, oh, they're, senior year grades, they're not on the transcript, they're not going to play a role. But if you are applying to a more reach school early action, oftentimes then you get deferred, especially to these big, state public schools, out-of-state public schools. It just buys you more time, and it just means they want more information, and hopefully it's good information and strong senior year grades. So hopefully that's.
And also, if you had some bumps in the road along the way, oftentimes they'll defer you to see how senior year is going. So if your child is taking APs for the first time, you may be deferred because they want to see how you're doing at the AP level. So there's different reasons to be deferred. A lot of times it's the senior year program. Okay, way in the back.
I know that you track your students over time, and a lot of people in this area hire outside counselors, college counselors, for a lot of money. So I know you track your students, but do you also track the students that have hired these outside counselors in addition to your help? Do you keep track of that? And what
We
is the
don't
success?
necessarily know who's hired outside counselors. It may have been a part of a conversation because a kid said that to us, but we don't really. We do the same for every kid. What we do for kids is the same.
Also, we ask at the end of the year, did you have an outside counselor? But I also urge you to remember, I live in New Canaan, and I feel like in New Canaan, we think something's better if we pay for it. Like, if we had to pay for air in New Canaan, we would buy it, because we would think intrinsically we paid for it, it has to be better. You've got an amazing, amazing staff here who care deeply about your kids. And at the end of the day, they write the recommendation. They're the ones meeting with your child in the context of the school here. So it's great if you need outside help, fine. I won't be critical. I would save that $10,000 for the tuition, but that's just me. But remember that there should be communications with the counselor, because at the end of the day, this is who is manning your ship, who is helping your child steer.
Thank you, Sue. Always good to have her here. Okay, final questions? Yep.
I've been on the impression that if you took an AP test and you didn't want to report that score, you didn't have to. And then I read an article recently saying that some schools are making you report all of them. How common is that?
It is not common. It's like Stanford University, MIT. It's not common.
Yeah, we hope that doesn't grow too much. The question was, there are a few colleges now asking for your AP scores that you've taken in sophomore and junior year, and that's never been true before. Kids can always choose to send which AP scores they want to send for, once you get to that college, are you being, saving money somewhere? Or you're not taking an intro course or getting ahead of the game a little bit. So we've only seen it just recently, this past year, with a couple schools asking for all AP scores. Okay, I think last question.
As far as doing college visits, trying to plan it on a long weekend when the kids are already off from school. But coming up, there is a Jewish holiday and Monday day of school to take that off. If the student is wanting to take advantage of that weekend to go visit a school, is it considered a full absence, or is it an excused absence, or is it?
It's considered an excused college visit absence. So it's excused. It's fine. They shouldn't be cutting eight more classes after that, but it should be fine.
And they just email their teachers?
Attendance, you call attendance in the same way.
Attendance,
So
Yeah.
for parents, right, you want to make sure that you're calling your student in or emailing attendance, right, to let them know that it's a college visit so that it'll be coded as such in PowerSchool. And then, but from the student end, they should absolutely reach out to their teachers and just, you know, like they would anytime they were absent, and make sure that they get the information that they missed.
Colleges that are coming in here, is it there a conflict with classes?
Yes, we advise all the question was, is there a conflict with students, with classes, with students going to the visits here? We instruct the kids to ask their teachers first and get permission, because if they're having a test or something important that the teacher doesn't want them to miss, it's the teacher's right to say, no, you can't go to that, and that's where you fill out that regret form that Susan talked about. Most teachers are really generous with the time, because these are a half hour, they're not taking up the whole period, they're okay mostly, but sometimes it just can't happen because they're not gonna, you know, science teachers aren't going to recreate the lab because you missed it. For a college visit, they're gonna be really upset about that. So there are certain things that we just have to ask permission and make sure it's okay.
And also quickly on that note, make sure your child asks permission before the rep's visit, so then they have time to fill out the college regret form. Because as Sue Carroll says, once our rep leaves, Elvis has left the building, and we can no longer give them the regret form, so just a little bit of planning.
I used to say that all the time, and now they look at me like, who's Elvis? And I just think, oh my God, I'm ancient.
Thank God there was a movie recently. Okay, thanks very much, everyone. Your counselors are available for more questions, and this will be recorded, so